पूर्णमदमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ईशावास्यमिदगुं सर्वं यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत् तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथा मा गृध्ः कस्य स्विद्धनम्। ॐ कुर्वन्नेवेह कर्माणि जिजीविषेच्छतगुं समाः एवं त्वयि नान्यथेतोऽस्ति न कर्म लिप्यते नरे। असूर्यानामते लोका अन्धेन तमसावृताः तागस्ते प्रीत्याभिगच्छन्ति ये केचात्मनो जनाः। ॐ अनेजदेकं मनसो जवीयो नैनन्तेवा आप्नुवन् पूर्वमर्षत् तद्धावतो ज्ञानत्येति तिष्ठत्तस्मिन्नपो मातरिश्वा दधाति। ॐ तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्दूरे तद्वान्तिके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य ततु सर्वस्यास्य बाह्यतः। ॐ यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतान्यात्मन्येवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते। ॐ यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतान्यात्मैवाभूद्विजानतः तत्र को मोहः कः शोक एकत्वमनुपश्यतः। ॐ सपर्यगाच्छुक्रमकायमव्रणमस्नाविरगुं शुद्धमपापविद्धं कविर्मनीषी परिभूः स्वयं भूर्याथा तथ्यतोऽर्थान् व्यदधाच्छाश्वतीभ्यः समाभ्यः। अन्धन्तमः प्रविशन्ति ये विद्यामुपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमोय विद्यायागुंरताः। अन्यदेवाहुर्विद्ययान्यदाहुरविद्यया इति शुश्रुमधीराणान्येनस्तद्विचचक्षिरे विद्याञ्च विद्याञ्च यस्तद्विदोभयगुंसः अविद्यया मृत्युं त्यक्त्वा विद्ययामृतमश्नुते। अन्धन्तमः प्रविशन्ति ये सम्भूतिमुपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमोय सम्भूत्यागुंरताः। अन्यदेवाहुः सम्भवादन्यदाहुरसम्भवात् इति शुश्रुमधीराणान्येनस्तद्विचचक्षिरे सम्भूतिं च विनाशं च यस्तद्विदोभयगुंसः विनाशेन मृत्युं त्यक्त्वा सम्भूत्यामृतमश्नुते। ॐ हिरण्मयेन पात्रेण सत्यस्यापि हितं मुखम् तत्त्वं पूषन्न पावृणु सत्यधर्माय दिष्टये ॐ पूषन्नेकर्षेयमसूर्यप्राजापत्यव्यूहरश्मीन् समूहतेजो यत्ते रूपं कल्याणतमन्तत्ते पश्यामि योऽसावसौ पुरुषः सोऽहमस्मि ॐ वायुरनिलममृतमथेदं भस्मान्तगुं शरीरम् ॐ क्रतो स्मर कृतज्ञ स्मर क्रतो स्मर कृतज्ञ स्मर ॐ अग्नेनय सुपथाराये अस्मान् विश्वानि देववयुनानि विद्वान् युयोध्यस्मज्जुहुराणमेनो भूयिष्ठान्ते नम उक्तिं विधेम ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः
Today we are going to be doing verses 4 and 5. It's going to be a little longer maybe, and maybe a little tougher because there are some words like Matarishwan, Apas, and some other descriptions that we are giving, as you must have seen in your reference papers. But it's going to be interesting nevertheless, that's for sure. So that is you.
Yeah, when this recording was being played, I noticed that she's starting every verse with a Om, but not every verse.
So maybe.
And so there are some verses, especially the third movement, that Vidya wala jo hai wo char panch, usme kisi mein bhi she's not starting with Om, and even the Asurya Naam Devloka is not starting with Om. Any particular reason for that?
So what I have noticed, and I could be wrong about it, is there are movements. Like when they're talking about Vidya and Avidya, there are 3 verses. 8, 9, 10, 11. So she should have started with Om, the 9th verse. And 9, 10th, 11th should have been one, because it's one flow. And then 12, 9, 10, 11, yeah. Then 12, 13, 14 should have also been one flow with starting with an Om. That's what I had thought it would be. But I have not actually seen that.
So 9,
as a
10, 11, 12, and 13 and 14.
हाँ ठीक है. So both, they're both one kind of movement, na? That this takes you to. So so it is all right.
So they don't have to start with Om.
Yeah, because it is started with Om, and then all the 6 verses must have been done. You should not go so much into these things. When we started this, Sarita, when we started this, what did we say? When we go in so much into the word, then we mentalize the whole thing and we miss the. Yeah. So just enjoy and experience it from the soul. Idhar Om kyun nahi laga aur udhar Om kyun laga? I had thought that this is the significance when I heard it the first time. But if she has taken Om somewhere and where she should have, I have not gone into it.
And there is no rule for these things. You
Acha,
can
but-
hear a chanting in which there will be no om in the beginning of every verse.
Okay. Not
Not
necessary.
necessary. It's her way of doing it. उसको अच्छा लग रहा है ऐसा करने से, इसलिए she's doing it like
Oh,
this.
acha, acha. Nothing.
It's just Purnamada Purnamidam in the beginning and Purnamada Purnamidam in the end with the 18 verses in between.
Oh.
That is how you will find most renderings of the Isha.
We've done first, second, third verses. We're not going to repeat that. And we are starting with the fourth and fifth. So let us chant the fourth and fifth together.
Anijadekam manso javiyo
Anijadekam manaso javiyo
Nainadeva apnuvan purvamarshad
Nainadeva apnuvan purvamarshad
Tadhavato jnanatyeti tishthat
Tadhavato jnanate titishtat
Tasminnapu matarishvadathati
Tasminnapo matarishva dadhati. One unmoving, that is swifter than mind, that the gods reach not, for it progresses ever in front. That, standing, passes beyond others as they run. In that, the master of life establishes the waters.
Tade jati tannai jati
Tade jati tannai jati
Taddure tadvantike
Taddure tadvantike
Tadantarasya sarvasya
Tadantarasya sarvasya
Tadu sarvasyastya bahyatah
Tadu sarvasyasya bahyatah. That moves and that moves not. That is far and the same is near. That is within all this and that also is outside all this. So let us start reading the plan of the Upanishad, page 12. In the second movement, the ideas of the first verse are resumed and amplified. See, the first verse, we all had spoken of that one God becoming and inhabiting the manifestation, right? We had talked about it, that there is one God who has become the manifestation. He's not only become the manifestation, he has inhabited the manifestation or cosmos. Page 12, Auntie. And the art and science of life was explained. We were told that we should tena tyaktena bhunjitha, offer all our actions to the Lord, and then we must learn to enjoy bhunjitha and not yearn for what does not belong to us, right? In the second movement, this thought is further enlarged upon. Let's read further. The one stable Lord, Akshara, right? That's the word from the Gita, but we can borrow from both. The one stable Lord and the multiple movements, Kshara, are identified as one Brahman. There is only Brahman, right? So the one stable Lord and the multiple movements are identified as one Brahman, of whom, however, the unity and stability are the higher truth, and who contains all as well as inhabits all. So we are all inside him and he is inside us, right? The Gita also gives us very clearly. See, the Upanishads focus is basically on Brahman. Brahman existed before manifestation. It was his choice. He could choose not to manifest, but he chose to manifest. It was a potentiality within him. Brahman existed before manifestation, and the ability to manifest coexisted in him, right? And the same Brahman, because he had the potentiality and he chose to, he became the many. This is what this line is saying. So, that which while remaining stable, completely stable in itself, could also become the many, is the higher truth, because he is the container and he himself has become the contents. And after becoming the contents which had become imperfect, his perfect self came inside the contents and impregnated them. We are all imperfect manifestations, right? Our physical, our emotional, our mental being, we are all imperfect. But within us, the perfect has come and impregnated us, right? So he inhabits the contents. We have been given 4 Mahavakyas or divine words. First is Soham. I am he. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Third is Tat Tvam Asi. That thou art. That thou art. And the fourth is Sarvam Khalu Vidam Brahman. All this is indeed Brahman, right? The relationship between the stable and the movement is an unequal one, right? Obvious enough, because one depends on the other, but the other does not depend on one. We depend on the stability, but the stability doesn't depend on its movements. It can choose to take the movements back inside itself, right? The basis and fulfillment of the rule of life are found in the experience of unity by which man identifies himself with the cosmic and transcendental self and is identified in the self. But how is he identified? He is identified with an entire freedom from grief and illusion, with all its becomings. What does this mean? Fulfillment in life depends on what? It depends on the level at which we are identified with the 3 statuses of the Lord. The Lord, as we said, has become perfect and has embedded himself inside us, individual or immanent. Then the divine has become all. So that is the cosmic. And the divine has become all. He has implanted himself inside us, and yet he is beyond the all. He is beyond the cosmos. So he is the transcendental. My best, Sarita.
What is the first before cosmic?
Immanent or individual, because the Purusha inside us, right? Then there is the cosmic, and then there is that which is the cosmic, which has become the immanent, and is beyond all this, which is transcendental. Clear? And because that alone, our identification, how much we are identified with these 3 statuses of the Lord, only that alone can take us to the state of freedom from grief and illusion. This is what verses 6 and 7 help us to realize this identification with God and his entire manifestation, right? And actually speaking, I thought I won't talk about it, but I feel like talking about it now. Because the same 3 realizations the Gita also gives to us. Because when we do a parity between what Isha Upanishad is saying and what the Gita is saying, then the validation comes and we feel stronger about it. So the Gita also says, the first, that there is lodged within us an entity which the Gita calls Purusha. That Purusha has a prenatal and a post-mortal existence. Before we were born, it was there. When we were born, it entered into us. And after we are dead, it still continues, the prenatal and post-mortal existence that Purusha has. And Sri Krishna says, Na hanyate hanyamane sharire, right? It does not perish with the perishing of the body. And man has to realize this as his true self. This Purusha within us, man must be able to realize as his true self and live in identity with this true self. This is the first that the Gita has said. The second realization that the Gita has also told us is that this individual, true self, is a portion of the cosmic self, he who has become all. And that self pervades, has become all this and permeates it. जैसे क्लॉथ को लेते हैं, उसको जब पानी में डालते हैं, where is the water? The water is outside the cloth And the water is also permeated within the cloth. Even inside every cell of the cloth, the water is permeated. Similarly, we have to experience the divine as having pervaded us, permeated us, and then seated his perfect self within us. So the seated himself as a perfect is the Purusha, and that which is pervaded and become all this is the Brahman. And the third realization is that both the Antaratman, that which is Purusha, and the cosmic self, they are manifestations of whom? They are manifestations of the word transcendent. So again, the three realizations. So we are all becomings of the self. So how can there be grief? How can there be illusion? That is what the verses 6 and 7 will tell us. That once we identify with the perfect, once we identify with him who is cosmic, who is transcendental, how can we experience grief? How can we live in illusion? When we have identified ourselves with him in all the becomings. That is the unity and the oneness.
Brahman and Ishwara.
Right, right. So now let us read the fourth verse and then understand the fourth verse.
Anejadekam manaso javiyo.
Anejadekam manaso javiyo.
Nainadeva apnuvan purvamarshat.
Nainadeva apnuvan purvamarshat.
Tathavato jnanatyeti tishtat.
Tathavato jnanate tishtat.
Tasminnapo matarishva dadhati.
Tasminnapo matarishva dadhati. One moving that is swifter than mind, that the gods reach not, for it progresses ever in front. That, standing, passes beyond others as they run. In that, the master of life establishes the waters. It may sound a little difficult, right? But once we've gone through the meaning, we'll realize how simple it is. See, the reality or God or Isha, in its very nature, as we've said, is Akshara, it is unmoving. And then we've already said in the first three verses that even while it is unmoving, yet it moves within itself. That which is unmoving has become the container, and it has become the content inside it, and the content is moving, and the container is stable. So the stable container ke andar the content is moving. Aristotle, the great Western philosopher, disciple of Plato, and Plato was a disciple of Socrates. So Aristotle defined God as the unmoving mover of the universe. Unmoving mover of he moves the universe, but he himself remains stable, right? And he took this analogy from what? From a magnet. Because he said that a magnet does not move by itself, but it makes the iron filings move and attracts them towards itself. So without moving, the magnet attracts the iron filings. Similarly, God, without moving, is able to move all of us. But he only has become all of us. So once we understand that moving and unmoving are two complementary things, then these two verses, fourth and fifth, will seem quite simple and very interesting. Tell me one thing. What is supposed to be swiftest? What is supposed to be swiftest? We've all studied in science. Light, hai na? But then the mind is supposed to be swifter than even light, right? Now, in physical terms, light is the speediest in the physical universe. Even speedier than light is the movement of mind. And even speedier than that is the movement of Isha, of God. Why? It is swifter. Aneja dekam manaso javiyo. This is a startling statement because it is not easy to understand. It remains like a riddle. What is it saying? Aneja dekam manaso javiyo. Let us understand the meaning that is given here. It says one moving that is swifter than the mind. So it moves, unmoving, sorry. One unmoving, and it is swifter than the mind. Mind is swifter than light, and that is unmoving, and yet he is swifter. That the gods reach not. Aneja dekam manaso javiyo. The gods cannot reach it. Now what's happened? Isha Upanishad is coming up with something new. There is Isha, who is the Lord, but there are also gods. Now, this is what they're saying. Aneja dekam manaso javiyo. They are devas. There are also gods who are supposed to be superior to human beings. So there is Isha, and then there are the multiple gods. Isha Upanishad has the knowledge of these beings who it is calling gods. Our modern mentality does not accept gods at all. What is happening to the modern generation? It only speaks of man and humanity because that is all that they can see. Unfortunately, God, capital G, God, gods, and souls, these three words are quite foreign to the modern mind. The Upanishadic seer, Rishi Yagyavalk, has knowledge of the gods. The Vedas had made the discovery of the God and the many gods thousands of years back, right? These gods, who are they? God, we've understood, Isha, who's Brahman. Now, what are these gods? They are different personalities of that God with a capital G. See, each one of us has many personalities. You have the personality of brilliance. You have the personality of Raman, that you can do hard work. We have so many personalities within us. When each one of us has so many personalities, what about God? He would have infinite personalities. Each one of these personalities is one of the gods.
We even compare ourselves with God.
Just to understand that God has so many personalities, we are also, in a way, an image of God, a facet of God, right? And when we are able to relate like this, we are able to understand Him better. And God is not only impersonal, right? The Gita has talked to us so clearly about the personality, the Purushottama, who we can relate with because he has a personality. And Gita has said so clearly that when we talk about the impersonal Brahman and we try to relate to him, it is so much more difficult and so much more painful, the journey of one who is trying to connect with the impersonal. So God has given himself a personality, Purushottama, and we can relate to him. So just like we have personalities, he has infinite personalities. And each one of these personalities is a God, small g, right? The Vedas have given descriptions of these gods, like Agni, who is the flame of aspiration, within us and everywhere, right? Indra, the god of mind. Varuna is the god of vastness and wideness. We talked about it. Mitra, the god of friendliness. Aryaman, the god of tapasya and intense work. Vayu, god of strength and speed. Hanuman, Anjani Putra Hanuman. They are the god of not only speed, but the god of strength and bhakti. And there are many other gods, many other gods. And the Vedic rishis had come in contact with the other gods. Not only they'd come in contact with them, they were having dialogues with them, which has been recorded. Most verses of the Rig Veda, of only the Rig Veda I'm saying, are addressed, most of them, to Agni, or the god of flaming aspiration, that which is within us, right? When we clean the temple of our hearts, when we clean the temple of our hearts and welcome these gods and these divine personalities, we welcome them. We can welcome them one at a time. Once, if you are a feeling that this is a mind that I need to be purified, then pray to Indra. Invite him read the verses that are addressed to Indra, call him, invite him, and read those verses, chant those verses, and Indra will come because he is within us. He has to grow within us. So when we clean the personalities of our hearts, when we clean the temple of our hearts and welcome these gods or these divine personalities, what happens? They become our friends and they become our helpers. And as we ascend, creating a deeper relationship, then we start experiencing an infusion of their qualities. They infuse us with their qualities. Those qualities start growing in our being. They permeate us with their qualities. And as we go higher and higher, climbing the ladder of life, what happens? They begin to shine and they begin to reflect in us. And we begin to shine like a diamond, chiseled by the master craftsman himself. That is what happens to us when we invite these gods and when we chant their name and we want to grow them in our personality, right? Now, the question arises, and this question was put forward by Sarita, one of the Sarita Jindal. Where do we place Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Krishna? Are they the God, or will they be counted among the many gods who are singular personalities of God? And then we were very lucky to have Anmol with us, who helped us with the reference from Essays Divine and Human.
Volume 12.
And Sri Aurobindo has explained this so succinctly. Now we'll read, quote, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Krishna. These are the eternal four, the quadruple infinite. Brahma is the eternal personality of existence. From him, all is created by his presence, by his power, by his impulse. Vishnu is the eternal personality of consciousness. In him, all is supported. In his wideness, in his stability, in his substance. What does it mean when they say wideness? That space is coming out of Vishnu. Shiva is the eternal personality of force. Through him, all is created. Through his passion, through his concentration, through his rhythm, through his concentration. So Shiva becomes time. Vishnu becomes space and Shiva becomes time.
Shiva is time. Vishnu is
Space. Brahma is the eternal existence. Sat Chit Anand hai na, to Sat, that which is, that which exists. Right? Krishna is the eternal personality of Anand. Because of him, all creation is possible. Because of his play, because of his delight, because of his sweetness. See, we'll be quoting from the Taittiriya Upanishad later that all this is possible only because the basis is delight.
He is the Paramananda, no?
He is
the highest delight.
delight, yes. Right? Brahma is immortality. Vishnu is eternity, space. Shiva is infinity, time. Krishna is the supreme's eternal, infinite, immortal, self-possession, self-issuing, self-manifestation, self-finding. On the basis of this, we can easily say that Sat, when we talk of Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda, so we can easily, you all have heard Satchidanand. So Sat is Brahma or immortality. Chit is Vishnu or eternity. Shakti is Shiva or infinity. And Ananda is Krishna or the Supreme's eternal, infinite, immortal self-possession, self-issuing, self-manifestation, self-finding. See, modern humanity may not accept this and call it the superstition hai, They're just old texts which mean nothing. See, if today the world were to come to an end by a nuclear explosion, then we'll start right from scratch again, right? And suppose a few individuals were to remain, and these few individuals were to tell their children stories of this modern world, that there were trains and planes, and we were talking on Zoom, and we had mobile phones. Those children would never believe all this, that it ever happened. Similarly, if we are now told that our forefathers had come in contact with the gods and they were having contact, not only contact, but dialogue with the gods, dialogues which were recorded by memory, then we do not believe it at all. That is a problem for non-believers. We are all believers here. So we don't have to worry about, because we are all aspiring to understand God. We are all aspiring to be consciously, constantly, continuously connected to God. So let us move forward with this verse, right? Everything's clear till now? So the Rishi is saying that even these gods, we've talked about the gods. Now, gods are clear to everybody? Individual personalities of the divine. So even these gods do not reach Brahman. That the gods reach not. Why? For it progresses ever in front. That standing, he stands, Isha stands, Brahman stands, passes beyond others as they run. Nainat Deva Apnuvan Purva Marshat. What does that mean? That however much the gods may run to arrive at that reality, to arrive at Brahman, Brahman is always in front and they can never overcome that reality. Should we go back to the same example that we had given? Because if we continue with the same example, it's much easier. The river and the eddies. However much each eddy, each bhavar wants to go ahead of the river, it cannot, because it is part of the river. And the river will always be in it and ahead of it. They go on running. The verse is saying, Tad dhavato. He remains standing. Jnanatyeti tishthat. And yet they never reach him. Why? Because it is unmoving. He doesn't move, but he's everywhere. And because he's everywhere, he's ahead of all. Very simple, right? See, this is because of the omnipresence. God is everywhere, so he's bound to be ahead of us. And to give a material, physical example of this omnipresence, we can think about a bottle of sand. A bottle which is full with sand. From top to bottom, there is no space. Will that sand move if you move it? It won't. So the Akshara part, we can say, is because it is everywhere. He's unmoving because he's anywhere, everywhere. He doesn't need to move. Where will he move? He's everywhere. Right? Just to understand the omnipresence. Now a new term comes. It's all clear now, Subhashini? In that, the master of life establishes the waters. Tasmin napo matarishva dadhate. In what? In that means in the Brahman who has become ether or space. We talked about Vishnu, the quadruple realities. So Vishnu, personality of Brahman, personality of Isha, in that Brahman has become ether or space. Because bina space ke to kuch ho hi nahi sakta hai na. There cannot be any manifestation if there is no space and time. So the third that in the fourth, that with a capital T, if you read the meaning, the third that with a capital T in the fourth verse is referring to the universe, which is nothing but Brahman, because everything is Brahman. Brahman who is self-extended in space and time. He is the continent or container in which He himself extends himself and inhabits it, right? In that space, I'm repeating myself. Vishnu, who is the all-pervading, who is also consciousness, that Vishnu becomes in that space, and Shiva or Mahakal becomes time, infinity. Who is in that time and space? Who establishes the water? Now a new term is going to come. Who establishes that water in that space and time? Matarishwan. Matarishwan establishes the waters. Okay? Now we have to understand a new term. Who is Matarishwan? Right? Sri Aurobindo calls him the master of life. Matarishwan. Now, who is the master of life? Sri Aurobindo explains that the master of life is Vayu in simple terms, but real term for him is life force or prana, which is given the function of manifesting all the aspects of that reality. Once space and time have come, space has come, space is also called ether. When we talk of the five Pancha Mahabhutas, there is ether, right? Space. That has become, that Brahman has become, Vishnu has become that. Now in that, who is going to establish the other? That is Prana or Matarishwan. Now let us first read the footnote that Sri Aurobindo is given, where Sri Aurobindo explains Matarishwan. Then we will further elaborate on it till it becomes absolutely clear. Footnote is on page 4. Matarishwan seems to mean he who extends himself in the mother or the container. What is the mother or the container? The ether, the space that Vishnu has become. That has become the container, right? And who is extending himself in it? Matarishwan. Whether that be the containing mother element, ether, or the material energy called earth in the Veda and spoken of there as the mother. It is a Vedic epithet. Epithet is a phrase which expresses the quality of a person. It is a Vedic epithet of the god Vayu. What is the Vedic epithet for Matarishwan? Matarishwan is a Vedic epithet of the god Vayu, who, representing the divine principle in the life energy, prana, extends himself in matter and vivifies its forms. Here it signifies the divine life power that presides in all forms of cosmic activity. We'll explain it, don't worry. So after this, if you see, there are bullet points which should be able to explain the whole process. This process of God becoming the many, Sri Aurobindo calls it the process of involution, because God has become other than himself. Annasya chittam abhisancharenyam. He has become other than himself, and then he's spreading himself in that which is other than himself, because he is perfect. And now he's decided to become imperfect. Annasya chittam, he's become other than his own nature. And there he spreads himself. So let us look at the bullet points, we'll understand it. After that, if there are any questions, we'll answer that before we go forward. So in the process of involution, there was an expansion of energy or Chit Shakti or Paraprakriti. So there was Isha Brahman. And Brahman became first Paraprakriti, the higher Prakriti. Gita also talks of Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti, right? The higher Prakriti. So Brahman first has to become a personality, right? And that personality has a Prakriti, because Brahman itself will have nothing. So it becomes first that personality who has that higher Prakriti called Paraprakriti, right? The higher Prakriti. Para means that which is beyond. So Paraprakriti. Then what does Paraprakriti do? Then Paraprakriti first becomes Aparaprakriti. Because unless it becomes imperfect, it cannot expand itself in space and time. So it becomes imperfect, the Aparaprakriti. Then what happens? Out of Aparaprakriti, ether or space, or you can call it container, So space and time come out.
Why cannot it expand itself if it is remain this paraprakriti? Why does it have to become a paraprakriti?
Because space and time all, yeah, it is a limitation of the paraprakriti. Paraprakriti is limiting itself. So it has to limit itself in something that is limited. Space is limited. Although we cannot count what the space is, yet it is something that can be measured, though it is immeasurable, right? So it had to become other than himself. And so it became space and time. And in that space, out of our prakriti, first space and time came out. And we had just a little while back understood from Sri Aurobindo's explanation that Chit is Vishnu. I'm just repeating myself so we remember. Chit is Vishnu, the all-pervading who has become space. And Shakti is Shiva, the Mahakal or force who has become time. Just to remind at the right space. Now this ether, the space, becomes Matarishwan. The space, ether, becomes Matarishwan. Matarishwan is Prana Shakti, the life force. Right? Then what does Prana do? Matarishwan or Prana first becomes fire. Then fire becomes water. And water becomes earth or matter. So it is energy which became matter, the equivalence of which was shown by Einstein in the earlier 20th century when he gave the equation E is equal to mc square. Energy is equal to matter, speed of light, square. This is basically the process of involution. I have given to you all a paragraph which Anmol had suggested, but we will not read it. Anmol and I read it day before yesterday. And it's a very difficult para, so we're not going to read it. Sri Aurobindo, the life divine, the conscious force, it's given in your reference.
It said, so that ether or space is Vishnu, and the Vayu or the Matarishwan is also Vishnu.
So Vishnu became space, and Shiva became time. And in the space and time, first Brahman became Paraprakriti. Paraprakriti became Aparaprakriti, so it became space and time. And then in the space and time, they became ether. Ether is already the space. Now that space became Matarishwan. Right? Am I right, Anmol? So
gradual
involution. From Sukshma, it started becoming grosser and grosser and grosser and grosser. Right? So I'm telling you that Anmol and I read this para day before yesterday from the 10th chapter, Conscious Force in the Life Divine. So Anmol is saying that we should read it. We'll read it. From whatever we understood of the sequence from this para, I will read out to you next. This too has been shared with you as a reference because, these things are deep and difficult to understand. And when you go through this again and again, then the penny clicks or the penny drops and it's understood. So Anmol suggests that we read this paragraph. So we'll read it. Matter is the presentation of force which is most easily intelligible to our intelligence. Molded as it is by contacts in matter, to which a mind involved in material brain gives the response. The elementary state of material force is, in the view of the old Indian physicists, a condition of pure material extension in space, of which the peculiar property is vibration, typified to us by the phenomena of sound. But vibration in this state of ether is not sufficient to create forms. There must first be some obstruction. There's a resistance in the flow of the force ocean, some contraction and expansion, some interplay of vibrations, some impinging of force upon force, so as to create a beginning of fixed relations and mutual effects. Material force, modifying its first ethereal status, assumes a second, called in the old language the aerial, of which the special property is contact between force and force, contact that is the basis of all material relations. Still, we have not as yet real forms, but only varying forces. A sustaining principle is needed. This is provided by a third self-modification of the primitive force, of which the principle of light, electricity, fire, and heat is for us the characteristic manifestation. Even then, we can have forms of force, preserving their own character and peculiar action, but not stable forms of matter. A fourth state, characterized by diffusion, and a first medium of permanent attractions and repulsions, termed picturesquely water or the liquid state, and a fifth of cohesion, termed earth or solid state, complete the necessary elements. Now let us just read this. There are some more bullet points behind. There was Brahman, it begins with. This will be more easily understood. This says, see, first there was Brahman, right? This we all understand. Brahman became Paraprakriti or higher Prakriti, we've all understood. But Brahman became personality who has a higher Prakriti, right? Paraprakriti became Aparaprakriti or the lower Prakriti, right? Now, how did the Aparaprakriti become the lower Prakriti? What did it do? First, it became vibration. Vibration which manifested for us as sound or shabd or ether or space, and it led to the faculty of hearing. So space ke karan hum hearing hai, right? Subtle. From Paraprakriti to Aparaprakriti to space. Now space, because of space, there is the hearing possible, right? Vibration. Then that space itself became what? It became Matarishwan. It became contact, which manifested as sparsha, or air, or vayu, or Matarishwan, or life force, and led to the faculty of touch or contact. Got it? First space, and then life force, vayu. Third came form. Now vayu became fire, right? Third came form or rupa. How do you see form? Will you be able to see form if there is no light? So you need the light to be able to see the form. So third came form or rupa, or fire or light, electricity, heat, and this led to the faculty of sight. Fourth came taste or rasa. How do you get taste? Because of the liquid or water or liquid, and this led to the faculty of taste, right? Fifth came cohesion or gandha or matter or earth or solid state, and this led to the faculty of smell, right? So these are all like Russian dolls. It's a very good example that Anmol gave. He said that some teacher had told me that they told him that they are like Russian dolls. एक के अंदर से दूसरा निकलता है, दूसरे के अंदर से तीसरा निकलता है. So, or like a collapsing telescope. You know, you've seen this. One comes out of another. They were all potentialities within Brahman, right?
These are aspects of apara prakriti. That means when a person, one of the sages, were in the stage of the para prakriti, they did not require these five senses. They could contact with the Brahman without the need of.
They were Brahman. They didn't need to contact
the higher consciousness.
They are themselves the higher consciousness.
I think these are aspects of the apara prakriti. So from the apara prakriti, someone is moving upwards, back up, and going to para prakriti, then what is the state?
That's what we are saying, that once he becomes,
It's a complete trance. See, whatever you experience, these what she has read, they are called tanmatras. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. If you think about it, whatever you perceive, either you perceive it as a vision, even if it is of a
Mic.
god, okay, or you perceive it as a sound, let's say Om. Okay. So this is basically how we perceive things. So matra tat, tat mane that, matra means only. Reverse it sandhi mein tan matra ban jata hai. But if you go completely beyond this, in the para prakriti, then there is no means of perception that way. So it will be a total absorption into that. It will be like
there is a oneness. You
in
start
the
living
complete
in oneness. So you don't need to contact somebody because you are that.
It will be a perception, but by pure consciousness. These will not be needed. It will be just be a purely conscious perception.
Right?
Like we have to move up, back into.
Yes.
Yeah. See,
ये क्या हुआ?
the utility of this
Listen,
is,
it is
see,
gone.
for example, you have your body. This is the earth. Okay. The
Cancel
question
करें.
arises, how that ultimate spirit, Purushottama, how he has become this? Because we are saying constantly that it is he who is all this.
Yeah.
That means this is also him.
Yeah.
If this is also him, how he has become this? So this is the way of back tracing it. That this basically is in its subtler form, it is what we call water. That in its subtler form is what we call fire. That in its subtler, you could also relate it with the states of matter in physics, solid, liquid, gaseous. Then they have something called plasma. In the 19th century, they used to even have ether, which they have dropped right now. Okay. So you can relate to that. So basically, this earth basically, this in its subtler form is the liquid state. That in a subtler form is the plasmic state. That in subtler form is the aerial state of matter. That in its further subtler form is the etheric state of matter. Beyond the etheric state of matter is that pure energy which we call para, which is having infinite
Qualities.
basic
Quality.
nature.
So if I say that this ether or space,
Yeah.
which is inside me,
Yes.
is also Vishnu inside me.
Yes,
In a
that's
sense,
We
so
said,
the word
we said
Vishnu-
all the gods are within us.
Yeah.
They are not away from us. We need to grow them by propitiating them, by remembering them, inviting them. They grow within us.
Because even like Vayu, if we say it could
Yes.
also mean Hanuman.
But don't do it.
Yes.
But don't we have Vayu within us?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Don't we have
We
matter
the
within us?
Vayu,
We have
we
everything
have-
within us. We have everything within us. But we have to.
Sense of space for Vishnu. The word Vishnu, literally, this is in the secret of the Veda. One chapter title is all pervading. So the word Vishnu literally means the all pervading. The dhatu is vish. जिसमें वो करके आवेश, प्रवेश, so vesha. Like, so vish means to enter. So he who has entered everywhere. That is what is Vishnu. He is the all pervading.
This sense first came vibration, right? So when you go backwards, as Anmol was explaining from the scale, can you just elaborate a bit about Om? Because it's Om which seems to have taken
You
the
will
So creation begins with Om, na? That is the primal sound.
vibration.
So that is the primal vibration. That primal vibration then further becomes more densified. So then it takes lower and lower form.
so
This is
as you
perfectly
chant
related.
Om,
Yeah.
in some which way it's
Connect to the
forever connecting,
Yes,
forever.
yes.
Yes, please take the mic.
From what I know, the Om and all the vibrations in it, all the
Yeah.
frequencies and
Of course, that is the primal
all
sound.
frequencies emanate and go back into.
Yes, it is a primal sound. So it has all the sounds within it. You're absolutely right.
Para Prakriti is actually in a state of equilibrium, no? There's nothing.
Yes,
And then there's to be some disequilibrium for everything else to come.
absolutely.
It is basically infinite and absolutely perfectly
And
infinite.
there's nothing required, it's complete and whole by itself.
Absolutely.
And then because of that.
So
Because of the grazing,
That
because of
first
the,
disequilibrium is the vibration.
and because there is resistance.
Some
That was the second level.
At the second level, when there is resistance, so the second level comes out
In
of
this
it.
paragraph, he's basically explaining how creation happens. So I mean, it is, even if it takes the whole lifetime to understand, it is worth it.
Okay. So what is Matarishwan? Because we started with Matarishwan. Matarishwan is this prana or the life force of Isha, that extends himself in the Mother Earth, which can also be called the container. Mother Earth is also the container. Or he extends himself in the primal ether or space, right? Vayu generally means wind or air in common parlance. But in the Vedas, Matarishwan means the energy of movement or energy of life, prana. And this prana extends itself and it gets resistance also. And because of the resistance, slowly and steadily, it first and then finally becomes matter and gives it life and then becomes the living creatures, right? This is called the process of involution, God becoming other than himself, or the process by which the perfect has become the imperfect. This has been given very symbolically in the Vedas and very tough to comprehend in the Vedas. But Sri Aurobindo has explained it beautifully in the Life Divine and in other essays. Very, very beautifully. And whatever we are saying here is because of his explanation that we could understand the process of involution. Because people talk of evolution, but evolution will happen after God has become this, na? So we must understand how did God become this, so that then we start unfolding that which we are essentially, in essence, what we are. When we understand what we are in essence, and then we start unfolding like a bud, starts becoming slowly and gradually into a flower. Because the potentiality of the flower is within the bud. The potentiality of becoming a butterfly is within the caterpillar. And because that potentiality is there, with a lot of effort, the caterpillar, with a lot of pain, that transforms into a butterfly. But we have to do this transformation consciously. It happens unconsciously in a caterpillar. It happens unconsciously in a bud. But if we don't choose it, this will happen, the evolution, but it will take its own sweet time and a painful time. The more we extend the time, the more we have to go through the pain. We think we are enjoying ourselves. But if we take this path, the enjoyment becomes much better and a much deeper enjoyment, because you're taking that path which is leading you to your final fulfillment, right? This is, the perfect becomes the imperfect manifestation. And once he becomes imperfect, I'm repeating myself just so everybody remembers, then he enters it in his perfect form, the Purusha, the soul within us, right? As the Agni or the soul, with the help of which the imperfect can again become the perfect.
That is required for you.
That's an aspiration. Agni is an aspiration. Because without that flame of aspiration, कि मैं ये बनना चाहती हूँ, मेरे अंदर force है, but it is an aspiration that pushes me कि नहीं, this is my choice. This is what I'm going to choose. And then we are able to progress more speedily, because we are recognizing Agni, the aspiration.
Excuse me, is that chanting that helps really to try and go toward that perfection state, perfect state?
Chanting will always help, but together with that, to become conscious of what is it that I want to do, what is it that I want to become, and then to choose at every moment. At every moment, we have a choice between 2 or 3 or 5 choices. Every moment. At every moment, to take the right choice, which would lead us towards the evolution. See, remember once in the last talks, we used to say that there is what is wrong, what is evil is duritani, that which takes me away from the right choice. That is what will take me away from the evolution, the path of evolution. For the moment, we'll enjoy ourselves. But is it taking me towards evolution? Or is the path taking me away from evolution? What is evil? Evil is that path which is called Duritani, which takes me away from evolution, away from the right path, right? So to be able to choose at every moment. Chanting, of course, is good, but it cannot be enough, can never be enough, right? So the perfect became the imperfect manifestation, and then the perfect entered into the imperfect manifestation in his perfect form as the Agni or the soul, and with the help of which the imperfect can again become the perfect. God became man so that man may become God. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 11th chapter, verse 19, Khasi ki dawai, Arjun says to Sri Krishna, Swatejasa Vishwam idam tapantam. With your radiant heat, you energize the world. What is that radiant heat? It is within each one of us, right here in the center of our heart cavity. Ishvara sarva bhutanam riddeshe arjuna tishtati. He is here, right here in our heart, in the form of Agni. And we can contact him because we are him, right? Now let us try and understand another new word. Are you all ready for it? We've done Matareshwar. Now we have to understand Apaha. In the fourth verse, Apaha means water. But here, Apas means waters. Apas means waters. And waters is a symbolic expression of the 7 planes of consciousness in the Vedas. The Vedas have spoken about 7 planes of consciousness. And Apas actually is a symbol of these 7 planes of consciousness. And the same is personified also by the 7 rishis, because each rishi is the head of that level of consciousness. Any movement of consciousness is called waters. Any movement of, why is it called waters? Because waters moves. Water is always moving. It never stays stable. And consciousness is also always moving between each other. The 7 planes of consciousness are not like, they don't have a hard line between them. They are always flowing between the different planes, the consciousness, right? Thoughts are called apas or waves of water because they flow, and even matter is called apas. Why? Because that too is a movement of current. We talked about it, that matter has so many atoms, zillions of atoms. Each atom has a nucleus in the center, and neutrons, protons, electrons are moving around the nucleus all the time in a very orderly fashion. So there is movement even in matter, right? So even matter is called apas because there are molecules moving about even in inert matter. As modern physicists tell us, what do they tell us? Matter is nothing but atoms, and atoms are nothing but electrons and protons, right? So life is a pulsation, and that too is symbolically called water, life. Mind, which consists of thought, is also called water. The whole universe contains various strands of matter, life, mind, and all these emerge out of that Brahman. And everything is moving within each other. So now if you look at your reference notes, so we are now talking of 7 planes of consciousness, right? Or we can call them 7 oceans or 7 rishis, waters of life. Now these waters of life are 7, out of which the first top 4 are the higher planes of consciousness, and the bottom 3 are the lower planes of consciousness in which we live, right? If you look at your reference notes, we start from the top. There is Sat or existence, which we had said is Brahma. Then there is Chit Shakti or conscious force, which we had clarified from Sri Aurobindo's writing, Vishnu and Shiva. Force is Shiva, na? Mahakal, Chit Shakti. Then there is Ananda or delight, which is Krishna, right? Then there is Vijnana, or as Sri Aurobindo has called it, supermind. Now, where are we living? We are living in the three lower planes, Manas or mind, and then there is Prana or life or the emotional energy or the vital energy. And then there is this matter, gross matter, Annam, right? We are living in these three planes. But our mind has a capacity by which it can open to the middle plane, which is the one you asked about, Vijnana or supermind. In fact, Swasti Mantra, in that, God has described, the Vedic rishis have described God as a bull. And the bull has 4 horns and 3 feet. 4 horns and 3 feet. The 4 horns are the 4 upper levels of existence, and the 3 feet are the 3 lower. Chatvari Shringa, 4 horns, Trayo Asya Pada, 3 feet. The Vedas mention 7 oceans. Actually, there are 7 planes of consciousness. And because they flow from higher levels of consciousness to our mind, vital and physical levels in the physical plane, so they are given the symbol of oceans, because they are flowing. So in that cosmic womb of ether, remember we talked about para prakriti becoming apara prakriti becoming ether. So in that ether, Matarishwan or life force or Vayu establish the 7 levels of consciousness, right?
Can be called as the apara prakriti, the matter, life, mind, and those are the para prakriti.
Yes, correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could have even written that there. But yeah.
This is also what Sri Aurobindo calls in the Life Divine as the upper and lower hemispheres.
Huh.
Parardha and Aparardha.
Aparardha.
Apara meaning lower, Ardha meaning higher. So the higher half and the lower half.
Very nice. So they are, the Vayu established the 7 levels of consciousness or the 7 cosmic principles, also called the waters of life. From the lowest to the highest, we can call them matter or annam, life or vital, mind or manas, then Vijnan or truth plane or supermind. What is supermind, you'd asked? Supermind is the consciousness of self-awareness, where that consciousness is aware of its own self. It's Satchidananda is aware of himself in the truth plane or in Vijnana plane or in supermind, right? Or truth consciousness, or you can call it Chit, Rita Chit, or all these. Ananda, Chit Shakti. Then there is Ananda, then there is Chit Shakti, and then there is, on the topmost is the level of Sat or being. In fact, I don't know if I'm right, but I remember is that, of course, we'll talk about the supermind space, but up to Ananda level, very few, 1 to
Yajnavalkya is one.
Yajnavalkya, who is the Rishi of our Isha Upanishad, has reached the Ananda plane. Very few, maybe 1 or 2 you would know who have reached the Ananda plane. So we have yet to reach the supermind plane. Ananda, फिर चित शक्ति, and then सत तो बहुत बाकी है. Supermind. Sri Aurobindo and the mother. In fact, I'm just going to tell you about it, that how Sri Aurobindo and mother have also brought supermind down on earth for us. Like, see, first, what were we? We were matter, right? And then the vital life force came down into matter, right? And matter was not allowing it. There was a lot of resistance. And despite resistance, somehow life force entered into it. So similarly, the higher plane comes into the lower plane and raises the lower plane to a higher level, right? So we can say in a way that the higher plane opens a visa office here. Once the visa office has been opened, we can get a visa and we can move up to that plane of consciousness. And what Sri Aurobindo and the mother did was open the visa office of supermind on earth. they brought supermind down on the earth plane. We'll talk about it again.
Just a question, a pause here.
Yeah.
Um, let's go back to the eddies and the river.
Ah.
Okay. So all of us eddies vibrating with awareness of the limited eddy, not being aware of the Lord Ishvara. Isha.
Can you see it? Ah.
So we are all in the lower three planes as eddies, aware of ourselves. We're not aware of Isha. We come to a lecture where he says, I am always there. Every second, awareness of him is Isha. Every second. You just now said the bridge, which is the supermind, is awareness of the Lord of himself. Right? So every second when the eddies come together, because our focus is ourselves, but if we could bring our focus and attention onto him, because he's there every second. He's there, he's there, he's there, he's there. So this level that we are talking about is just this awareness. As you rightly said, he is aware of himself. In this second, because we are praying to the Lord, we are also aware of him. The moment we step out, we go back to being eddies and thinking of different things. If you are always aware, it's him, it's him, it's him, it's him, it is him. He is always aware of himself.
Yeah.
So this is the bridge, which is what somebody said, Om. If suppose I was doing Om chanting every second. From this time, I've heard Isha, I go back home now, I am Isha. I am, but I'm not realized. If I could just spend the next 24 hours thinking Om, I am on this plane, which is the bridge. Am I right?
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. Good, good. But I know of somebody, no names taken. So they were going for the Vedanta classes, and she said that I have understood that I am the soul. So I'm realized now. But understanding it and actually becoming that,
24 hours.
not only chanting, but you have to become that. All your actions have to be actions of the divine's will flowing through you. Just knowing it mentally, even chanting all the time, will not do it. We have to become that. We have to become that perfect instrument through whom he is flowing it it consciously, constantly, continuously connected, and an instrument of him. Constantly, continuously connected. Sorry, it just came as
Constantly and continuously the same thing.
constantly will be at every moment, right?
How does it get to it? That is the point.
By making the right choice at every moment. And how will you make the right choice at every moment? At every moment you are offering to him and you're inviting him into your work. Every moment you're inviting him into your work. So by inviting him, एक दिन तो ऐसा आएगा ना that invitation कर ही नहीं रहे because वो flow कर रहे हैं हमारे अंदर से. You will feel that I am not doing anything. मुश्किल तो ये रास्ता किसने बोला कि easy रास्ता है? I told you this rasta is not this road, this map, this road is not for the weak. This road is only for the strong. Kshurasya dhara. It's a walking on a sword. And if you have chosen it, that's why you're here.
Then you have to be there all the time.
Yeah, but what's the problem? Is
आप सोच ही नहीं सकते।
नहीं क्यों नहीं सोच सकते? आप movie
all the time.
and you're going to a movie. You remember him. You offer to him. You say, I want to see the movie. I want to see it through your lens. You become my lens. You become my understanding. You become the popcorn I'm going to eat. When I eat it, I'm going to eat you consciously. Say that. Feel it. Feel it. It's possible, Reena. You can do it. And you will do it. All of us will do it. Right?
We do it at the end, it's only by his grace.
Yes.
He will come,
Decide when.
But she has said it so beautifully that we will do it. But ultimately, it is the grace which will take us up. But it will take us up only when we are aspiring, when we are connected to the Agni. Yes, Anjula, I remember the name.
passionate about it.
Yes.
Yeah, so like a mother who's just given birth to a baby, and she's all the time so into the baby. Even if she's going for a movie, she's doing her other work daily, okay. At the back of her mind, within her, she's always connected to the child. Yeah. That's the yearning, the passion that will lead you.
You've given the example that Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans had given. So beautifully, she has given the example of Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans. Always on your child.
Always on my lap, and still I'm here. I wanted to be here, but still it's just there.
So what Ramakrishna Paramhans said, he said that just like a maid who comes to your home, she comes with her baby. She gets her sari and she ties it to two things and puts her baby inside that sari ka hammock. And she's doing jhadu, she's doing pocha, she's cooking, she's serving. But her mind is where? It's always on her baby. Similarly, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans said, your mind has to be always on him. Whatever work you're doing, but your mind has to be on him.
You have to be in love.
In love, absolutely. Bhakti will take us.
Do this without love.
Yes, so you've got the point now. So Vijnana, or the truth plane, which Sri Aurobindo named the plane of supermind, leads the divided consciousness back to the unified consciousness. Supermind helps us to do that. You're feeling cold? You want to simply just switch off.
Isn't this the most important thing? This is the bridge that if you could offer everything 24/7 and the bond becomes better and better, then you are connected to him because he was always there. See, we must realize this is such a beautiful point. He's there. We are just not putting the right effort. We are not doing the activity. But if you offer everything, the bridge will connect you.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So, Vijnana, or the truth plane, which Sri Aurobindo named the plane of supermind, leads the divided consciousness of mind, life, and matter back to the one united consciousness of unity. And supermind also sees the truth of things in the multiplicity. In the multiplicity, it doesn't see division. Supermind sees only the oneness, right? It takes cognizance of both the one and the multiple, the knowledge and the ignorance. We'll be doing knowledge and ignorance when we come to verse number 9, 10, 11. With the help of Vijnan, the truth plane, the supermind, we can be led from our divided consciousness back to the one, but only if we do not neglect the many. We cannot go on thinking of the one and forget the presence of the one in the many. We must remember कि वो सब में है, right? Vijnan, or supermind, or truth consciousness is the divine counterpart of the lower divided intelligence. हर एक का एक counterpart है. तो ऊपर वालों का हर एक का एक नीचे divine counterpart है, right? Sri Aurobindo and the mother brought down supermind on the earth on 29th February 1956. And it was clearly, palpably experienced by some people. In fact, she told us that she experienced it. She didn't know that mother is bringing it down at that moment. At the same time, in Africa, somebody who was open to the mother, at the same time experienced a descent of something. And she sent a letter. उन दिनों तो कोई phone होता नहीं था that you could make. She sent a letter and she wrote the date and the time, that at this time I experienced the descent of something. And then mother collaborated and she said that this was the exact time when supermind was brought down on earth. Right? So it is for us now, with the tapasya of Aryaman, to strive to perfect ourselves through conscious transformation, so that we too become fit receptacles for its descent into us also. Sri Aurobindo says, Krishna is the eternal personality of Ananda. And Sri Krishna of the Gita is a transcendent Godhead, Purushottama, Parabrahma, Vasudeva, who is all, the immanent in the heart of all creatures. Now, when we are talking about Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, what Rishi Vishwamitra writes in the Gayatri Mantra. So, who is he addressing? Om Bhur. Bhur is matter. Vishwamitra. Bhur is matter. Bhuva is life. And Swaha is mind. Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha.
Who?
Bhu, Bhu,
Who?
Bhu, not Bhur. Bhu, Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha. Also in the Vedas, they are called as Prithvi or earth, Antariksh or space between earth and the sky or mind, and Dev, right? We all have heard the Shanti mantra, you know? Om, you would be knowing it. Dev Shanti, Antariksha Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, Apa Shanti, then all the Vanaspati Shanti. कि हर जगह शांति को bring it down, bring it down. I had posted once on Quest a very beautiful chanting of the Shanti mantra. So I तो sent it to all my staff also कि जब तुम लोग सफाई कर रहे हो, keep that on. So you raise the vibration, do whatever you can at whatever level. And in the Swasti mantra, as I told you, I forgetting, Rishi Vamadev says Chatvari Shringa. We've already spoken about it. Trayo Asya Pada. That the reality is like a bull, which has 4 horns and 3 feet. The 4 horns are the 4 upper worlds, Sat, Chit, Anand, and Vijnan or Supermind, or truth consciousness or Ritachit. And the 3 feet represent the 3 lower worlds, mind, life, and matter.
So can you just repeat that? What do they indicate? The three,
Physical, vital, and mental.
sorry, physical wealth.
Who is matter? Bhuva is life, and Swaha or Swar is mind. Okay? So now we'll have to read Apas from Sri Aurobindo's explanation. Apas, as it is accentuated in the version of the white Yajurveda, can mean only waters. If this accentuation is disregarded, we may take it as singular apas, work, action. Shankara, however, renders it by the plural, works. The difficulty only arises because the true Vedic sense of the word had been forgotten, and it came to be taken as referring to the 4th of the 5 elemental states of matter, the liquid. So, such a reference would be entirely irrelevant to the context. But the waters, otherwise called the 7 streams or 7 fostering cows, are the Vedic symbol for the 7 cosmic principles and their activities. 3 inferiors, the physical, vital, and mental. 4 superiors, the divine truth, the divine bliss, and divine will and consciousness, and the divine being. Right? Divine truth is supermind, divine bliss is Ananda, divine will and consciousness is Chit, and divine being is Sat. On this conception also is founded the ancient idea of the 7 worlds, in each of which the 7 principles are separately active by their various harmonies. This is obviously the right significance of the word in the Upanishad. See, these 7 powers of Chit are spoken of by the Vedic rishis as the waters. They are imaged as currents flowing into or rising out of the general sea of consciousness in the human being. Right? The Hriday Samudra, ocean of the heart. Sri Aurobindo से ही मैंने quote किया from the book. Right?
जो समुद्र मंथन what we read, so वो भी हमारे अंदर ही हो रहा है.
Yes.
That is also if everything is happening
within us.
within us.
Microcosm is within the macrocosm, and macrocosm is within the microcosm.
Samudra Manthan is nothing but the evolution.
Evolution.
The Samudra is the inconscient,
हाँ,
called in the
उसका
Veda the
उसका मन-
Apraketam Salilam. The Salilam means ocean. They use that image.
हाँ,
So that is the inconscient ocean,
Hmm.
and Manthan is nothing but the churning of that, and from that whatever comes out. So that is the evolution. So there's a direct image of the evolution. Amrit is the
Amrit is
thing.
ultimate.
Amrit
हाँ.
is synonymous with Ananda, which, as Anjali ji said, is the stage after supermind. So that is like the final and crown of evolution, which comes right at the end.
ये तो बहुत दूर है.
So that means the serpent that is there.
That is like the Kundalini.
The Kundalini,
actually
yeah,
the,
is
The energy
doing,
basically.
is the energy which is doing the manthan, which is churning.
Vasuki Nag jo usme hota hai,
which
that is a symbol of,
and the tortoise which is sitting is Vishnu ji then.
yeah, I mean,
I'm just sorry, I'm just
These 7 planes are inseparable and they are coexisting. These have, through the process of involution, become matter and must necessarily evolve out of it. Matter ban gaya hai. Up from matter, we have to keep, we have matter, life and mind, but we have to evolve out, right? They can be withdrawn into pure infinite being, lay ho jaya, and can again be manifested out of it. If Sachidanand wants ki pralay ho jaye, if it is Sachidanand's own will, he will manifest. If it is his will that he wants to withdraw it all, he can withdraw all the Prakriti into himself. Just like a spider pulls the entire web into himself, or he can get the web out of himself. So Brahman, or the one, has, through the process of involution, become the many, and the evolution of the many back into the one is the law of the eternally recurring cycles, right? Cosmic cycles. But mind you, we must remember that recurrence is not an obligation कि भगवान को तो recur करना ही पड़ेगा. ये भी उनकी free will है. वो चाहे तो प्रलय करें, वो चाहे तो सृष्टि करें, उनकी इच्छा. But Mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram has said very clearly that there will not be another pralay. She has said it very clearly. Ab pralay nahi hoga. Just like these 7 planes of consciousness, there are powers of the higher consciousness. Actually, the Vedas said that there are 7 powers of higher consciousness, but only 5 could be found in whichever Vedas were available, because so much of our literature was lost. So the 5 powers, and I've given that also, I think, to you. They are Bharati or Mahi, which is vastness, Ila or revelation, Saraswati or inspiration, Sarama, intuition, and Dakshina, intuitive discrimination. So these are powers of the higher consciousness. And these two descend. There are people who've had, in the dream, they've dreamt. Some have had, so many people are getting intuitions. So they are living in that higher, Sri Aurobindo has said very clearly that there is a psychic transformation and there is a spiritual transformation. In the spiritual transformation, the person is no longer living in the mind. He's living in the higher levels of mind. Could be living in the intuitive plane, or the plane of the intuitive discrimination, or in the plane of inspiration. But these are all different planes of consciousness, right? So now let us read the
Levitation and all happens and
levitation is at a level that is very not so high as this. Yeah. So let us read the 4th verse again. Anej dekam manaso javiyo. Would you like to repeat? Anej dekam manaso javiyo. Nainat deva apnuvan purva marshat. Tad dhavato jnanatyeti tishtat. Tasmin napo matarishva dadate. One unmoving, that is swifter than mind, that the gods reach not, for it progresses ever in front. That, standing, passes beyond others as they run. In that, the master of life establishes the waters. In that, master of life is prana, establishes the seven planes of consciousness. In what? In the ether. Right? Tade jati tannai jati tad dure tvadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyatah. That moves and that moves not. That is far and the same is near. That is within all this, that also is outside all this. Yes, again, so many opposites have been reconciled, right? This startling statement seems incomprehensible to us. Why? Because stability and movement are opposites in our normal consciousness, right? In our ordinary experience, if we are stable, not moving, then we cannot be moving at that time. But Isha or Brahman can move and be stable both at the same time. He can remain stable, and within the stability, he can move. That which is stable is Akshara of the Gita, and that which moves is the Kshara of the Gita. In our normal experience, we find that the greater the movement that is required, the greater the stability required in the foundation. Relationship between movement and stability is visible even in our normal life. Suppose we want to make a very big dam to produce a lot of electricity, then what is needed? A very strong foundation is needed to sustain the tremendous force of water, right? That can move the turbine powerfully so that electricity is produced. A fast flowing river, why is it able to flow fast? Because it has a stable river bed supporting it, right? So those stability and movement seem to be opposites of each other. Basically, both are complementary. Both are complementary. Masculine and feminine, form and formless, nirguna and saguna. None of these are really opposites. They are all complementary to each other because they complete the whole, right? The greater the stability, the greater is the movement that we can generate. This is the nature of the universe. The greater the silence in the inner being, the greater is the power of receiving the shocks of life. You will notice that those who are really silent in their inmost being, they will be able to absorb shocks much better. But those that are all the time vocal, and they will not be able to absorb shocks, because when shocks come, their whole being will be, right? The greater the silence in us, the greater will be the power of our speech. The greater the silence in us, the greater will be the reception of our knowledge. Knowledge भी तभी receive अच्छे से होगी if we are little more silenced within. See, if a child is jumping from one sofa to the other, one thing to the other, and the mother is trying to teach him, will he be able to absorb what she's trying to teach him? He won't be able to. But when he sits down quietly and reads with concentration, he understands quite easily. So the greater the silence, the greater the power to absorb, the power to possess, the power to acquire knowledge, right? And for this, I know I'm going a little off track, but I had posted once and I'll post it again. Shraddhalu, his one video is there. He's just left one video on the net where he teaches meditation, the descent of peace. And I strongly recommend that all of us must, if we feel inclined to it, do meditation with him in that. It's a beautiful experience. You shared it? Thank you. That was fast. So, further, the 5th verse says, that is far and the same is near. Tad dure, tad dvantike. When Brahman is omnipresent everywhere, he will be experienced as both, right? Far and near. Similarly, the Rishi says further, that is within all this and that is also outside all this. Tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyatah. When Brahman has become the container, the ether or space, and he has entered that space, he is within all this. But we cannot say that Brahman is only that which is manifested. He is not only the container and that which is contained. He is beyond all this, transcendental, we had used the word. So, tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyata. He is within all this and is outside all this. He is beyond this, his manifestation also. That is why Rishi Yagyavalkya is saying that he is within this and outside. Now let us read the two verses again, 4th and 5th. Just the meaning we'll read. One moving that is swifter than mind, that the gods reach not, for it progresses ever in front. That standing passes beyond others as they run. In that ether, the master of life establishes the waters, the 7 planes of consciousness. And the other verse, 5th verse, that moves and that moves not, that is far and the same is near. That is within all this and that also is outside all this. We must remember that the Rishi, in a state of profound silence, he received through revelation this knowledge that this moving universe has behind it a big stable support. It was in profound silence that he received this knowledge. The Isha Upanishad is not an intellectual or philosophical book. It is a record of knowledge that was transmitted to the Rishi in the state of poignant and absolute silence. The origin of all this movement of the cosmos is revealed to him. He finds that Ishvara is at one silence, and yet he is the originator of all this movement. From the profound silence of Ishvara, millions of rays of light, billions of rays of light are emanating. And so many universes have been manifested by him. We will not use the word created, because he has not created, he has become. All that is manifested is not outside Isha. It is all inside Isha, because there is nothing outside him. Yet outside this manifested universe is the transcendental Isha, just as a memory. All this is manifested within Isha. And yet Isha cannot be measured by just measuring this universe, because he is beyond this universe too. Let us all just do 2 minutes of silence. So all this is absorbed as a gratitude to the divine.